with all of these choices? Why mindful smartphone photography? That's the question. Well, friends, today I'm going to answer that question in a sense of the objective being inner peace. So that's what we're after. And if you're here today watching this video and you want inner peace, then you've come to the right place. Yeah, so before I answer why mindful smartphone photography, I should probably talk a little bit about just why mindful photography in general. And you're going to have to excuse me. I'm going to be looking down at my notes. This is another one of my one take videos. So I'm going to be glancing down at my notes, and hopefully I saw a comedian last Friday night. It was in front of a huge crowd, and the first part of the act sort of sounded a little rehearsed. He was getting a lot of laughs, but he chose to really riff and go off script for kind of the second half. It did get a lot of laughs, so he sort of choked, and I hope I don't do the same thing. But yeah, so let's talk about just mindful photography to begin with. Frankly, I think mindfulness and photography go together like spaghetti and meatballs. Photography for me is such an immersive, creative form of mindfulness. I find myself so intensely into the present moment. And so the genesis of the mindful photography field guide, and notice I say the subhead down here, 15 smartphone photography practices for inner peace. Smartphone photography practices. The genesis of all of that was a little over 10, 12 years ago. I was doing a lot of street photography in Austin, and I was also going through a really bad period of depression and anxiety. So somehow, miraculously, I would peel myself off of the couch, go downtown, and walk around on the streets and shoot. And when I would do that, you can find some of those videos where I'd have a GoPro mounted on top of my camera. And so it'd be kind of a POV experience where I'd approach people and hit them up for portraits. And I created a body of work called Street Portraits. But what I would find is that I'd get back to my car and, all of that adrenaline and rush and getting out of myself and talking to people and interacting, man, my whole disposition would change. It was remarkable. And so I knew that I was on to something. And the thing is, failure was not an option. My state, my mental state, my emotional, spiritual state was so bleak. I had to hang on to this. Spiritual work, that was a part of it. An active program of recovery and mentors and coaches and all of that was a big part of it. But I found that for me, that the way that God wired me as a sensitive and creative dude, that this was really next level mindfulness. And so again, failure was not an option. I was hanging on for dear life. And so when I started to put this together in a book form, I wanted to make sure that this hunch of mine wasn't just a hunch, that it was backed up by science too. And there's a lot of science baked in to the book. So next question is, so let's add the smartphone back into it. So why mindful smartphone photography? By the way, gear freaks, I am shooting this on an iPhone 16 Pro Max, just the front-facing selfie camera. And then this mic right here is a USB-C. It has XLR, the bigger, more, quote, professional input, but it also has USB-C to USB-C. So this mic right here is just simply plugged in via USB-C to my smartphone, and that's what we're looking at. For good, for bad. It may not sound like, perfect professional broadcast, but it sounds pretty darn good. And yet another reason why I just love this technology so much, just mind-bending technology. So why mindful smartphone photography? Doesn't that kind of seem like an oxymoron to take mindfulness and smartphone and mush them together? Yeah, I get it. Like on one hand, This right here is the world's greatest distraction device. I mean, nothing is warping our minds any more than these darn smartphones, and we're being controlled by the people who get content through these smartphones and into our eyes and ears and brains, right? So I get that. And it's so widely used. It's just hard to find anyone who's walking around without a smartphone either in their hands like this. In fact, I have this idea that we're going to start evolving with hands like this because we're always carrying our smartphone in their hands, in their pockets. It is ubiquitous. Okay, I'm going to look at this so I'm absolutely sure I'm not giving you wrong statistics. Are you ready for this? Do you know how many photographs are taken annually? 95% of which are on smartphones, by the way. Okay, the number starts with a 2. What do you think it is? 2 billion? 20 billion? 200 billion? Try 2 trillion photographs taken annually, 95% of which are from the smartphone. 5 billion photographs a day. I don't even know how that's possible. Look it up yourself. Ed, are you ready for this? You know how many of those 5 billion photos every day are selfie photos? Evidently 100 million selfies are taken every day. So we know we have the vanity thing, like we're good on the vanity thing. So again, we come back to why using the smartphone when there are other things that maybe aren't connected that we can use too. And so that's kind of what I wanted to go through today with these various devices and kind of give you an idea of why I think this is the tool for mindfulness, not these things. But you have to understand something about mindful smartphone photography. If you're going out just shooting, that's great, wonderful, go for it. But it ain't mindful smartphone photography if we're doing it that way. There's a step that we've got to take first, and that is to take this world's greatest distraction device and that hard time focusing here with this dumb thing. Yeah, airplane mode. See that right there? We're going to turn this thing on airplane mode. And when we do that, we're communicating to our mind that we mean business. We're going to take some time for ourselves and turn this amazing, the coolest gadget since the Swiss Army knife, right? And this amazing device to take photographs, we're going to do that. We're going to turn this smartphone, world's greatest distraction device, into a simple camera and go out there and shoot. So yes, there are so many different options, right? I mean, hey, I've got a camera that I discovered. It's the highest resolution thing out there available for consumers. You ready for this? 576 million, 576 megapixel camera. What is this? Like a 40 something megapixel camera? That's right. You ready for it? It's real lightweight too. It fits in your pocket. There you go, friends. That's it. It's wide angle when you want it. It's telephoto when you want it. And it's really minimalistic. Doesn't require batteries either. Literally, sometimes I go on walks with this. I have this featured in the book about just taking a frame out. It's amazing what happens when we put a frame around something. It could be something slick like this slide holder that you can find. You can find them on Amazon. But you can kind of just do it with your finger too. Walk up to your sweetie and go, hang on a second, honey. Click, click. As is ridiculous as I'm sure that looks, you'd be amazed when you go out there and do that. When you take this and you really frame it up, you don't overshoot. You frame that sucker up, get it just right. And when it's just right, you see the photo that you want, click your eyes like that, and you'd be amazed at what pops up, how vivid the memory of that image. So it's almost like we're taking a photograph in our mind. The only thing is, it's not very shareable. So that takes us to maybe the next obvious choice for mindful photography if we're not using smartphones. What about our big boy camera? This is the coolest. After all, it's not plugged in, so we're not jacked into the matrix, etc. So why don't we do that? Friends, it's been about 12, 13 years since I started to do photography professionally. From portraiture work, event photography, product photography, every unimaginable form of photography that needs this kind of camera, at least it all used to. This is not a mindful photography device. It's so complicated and so frustrated. For me anyway. It may not be for you, but I find myself when I'm using gear like that, like you may be wondering, what is this? Why is it black on the front? Oh yeah, okay, that's what's called an ND filter. So you gearheads will know what I'm talking about. But for the other folks, when you shoot video with a camera like this, the aperture is so wide and the camera lets in so much light with this big giant lens. By the way, this is the Sony 24 1.4 lens. The most gorgeous images that come out of this, such beautiful bokeh and such incredible sharpness. But when you're letting in all of that light right there, you have to actually cut down on the light you let in when you're shooting video. Otherwise, it gets a little bit of a jerky movement. There's something called a 180-degree shutter angle. And if you're shooting 24 frames per second, then your shutter speed should be 48/50. You see where I'm going with that? This is ridiculous. If I'm thinking through all of that technical stuff, then I am not being mindful in a productive way. I'm definitely concentrating, but I'm concentrating in kind of a frustrating way. So another thing is just the sort of the variability or the flexibility of a camera like this. So this is a prime lens, one single focal length, 24 millimeters. This big old honker of a lens right here is really heavy. Is a 35 to 150 millimeter zoom lens. So you see the ridiculous, you can't feel how heavy this zoom lens is, but can you imagine me walking around very long with this slung around my neck? I mean, I'm getting some back problems. This is not fun. This is not a fun thing to carry all of that around. But if I want to, with this right here, if I want to shoot a macro photo, I zoom right in and click, all of a sudden it's in macro mode automatically. And I'm getting in there like that far away from the object. With this or this, sorry, you got to switch lenses. You got to switch lenses to another expensive, yikes, lens. Cha-ching. So as far as, pro cameras go, yeah, I was describing for you earlier this mindfulness feeling that I was feeling on the streets in Austin, and that's all true. But as the concept evolved and I realized exactly what I was doing, I realized I'm not in the world to teach you how to take pretty pictures. I'm in the world to help you find inner peace through this active, creative form of engagement, mindful smartphone photography. So I want to steer you in the direction that's going to allow you to feel that inner peace, but not just after some long, drawn-out, pre-planned photo shoot. I want you to have that in your pocket. So when you're out in the wild and you're starting to feel dysregulated emotionally, you're struggling with depression and anxiety, whoops. First step in mindfulness is to notice, okay, my inner world's not good right now. I need to intervene on this. Hand in the pocket, pull this out, slip it into airplane mode. Now we have a powerful, powerful mindful device. And by the way, whatever camera you're using during this process, I want you to remember the hand on the heart, 3 belly breaths. So again, the first step is turn it on airplane mode, and then take this hand, slip it on your heart. Just pat your heart, give yourself some love, and take in 3 deep, deep belly breaths. There are other choices, right? You ever seen one of these? Oh, the Osmo Pocket, blah, blah, blah. Year plus ago, I thought this was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. It was going to help me do my walk around videos, and it was going to be so cool. And I mean, I hate this thing. I can't stand it. You're out there going around and you want to stick it back in your pocket. You have to like put this thing on here, and you can't slide it into your pocket. It's supposed to, and the screen is so tiny. And for me to, I don't have very fat fingers at all, but for me to try to control things on here, it was a nightmare. So what you're supposed to do, oh, you're supposed to also have the app on your phone. So then you have that. And it's not like your phone, when you go out with another, say, a dedicated camera, it's not like your phone is just going away or you're leaving it home. I mean, you can, and that's a great idea, but most of the time it's in your pocket too. So you think I'm going to be Mr. Mindful and go around and shooting with this and just ignore the phone in my pocket? No, it's still there. All of these things still require discipline. Mindfulness requires incredible discipline. This stuff don't come easy. And so there's discipline involved in setting that onto airplane mode, just like there's discipline involved in using these other devices. So this thing right here, such a source of frustration, and all the guilt about spending all that money. Now I've got to sell the thing, and I just can't stand it. And another thing that makes me feel frustrated and burned about this, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this right now, frankly, this one take video, goof ups and ums and ahs and all of that with you, is I want to be authentic with you. I want to be real with you, and not just as a marketing word, authenticity. But when I see people out touting things like this on their YouTube channel, and hey, a link below, etc., I just wonder how honest they're really being. And some of us, I'm not going to say you, gearheads that just love gear and get that rush when we're spending money on gear and stuff, but then end up having like a Pelican case full of expensive gear. And by the way, I'm about ready to sell it all. It's very difficult, even for me, to let go of that ego. I'm telling you, I used to be such a bokeh addict. I wanted the fastest lens possible, the shallowest depth of field possible. I was so proud of my Sony, blah, 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 or my Leica Q1 and the Leica Q2 and all of that. Here's a Leica right here. It's hard to let go of that, to stop pixel peeping. Wait a second. When I zoom in 1,000% on this image, I see that the grain in there looks a little funny. And so my big boy camera looks much better than that. Like, who is doing that? The quality out of these cameras now, and video, of course, is so phenomenal. But still, there's the analog option. Okay. Speaking of, let's talk about this. This is an old Leica M6. Of all the cameras that I'm selling, I'm not selling this. Caleb's my 27-year-old son. This is going to be yours someday. You know, the craziest thing is it's going to work. I know. All you have to do is throw some film in there, and you're going to have yourself a camera that works without all of the electronics and stuff. This is a rangefinder camera. For those of you who don't know, so this is like 1960s technology. This right here, the Leica M series is pretty much the first commercial 35 millimeter camera, and they've been making them for 100 years. So this is a real classic camera. And so, for instance, So this has what's called a rangefinder. So when I'm looking through that rangefinder, not the viewfinder, but the rangefinder, I move this thing on this manual lens. Every single solitary thing about this camera is manual, everything. But when I'm doing this, it moves these frames together so I can see where the focus is. It's very painstaking. And so if you go out shooting film with this, okay, I'm going to shoot a roll, and it's all good, and it's an experience. But is it, again, sort of like my big boy camera, is that experience mindful? Do you really feel inner peace out of that? Or is it just like this frustration kind of thing for you? Not to mention, how mindful is it to then shoot, a roll of film, however long, many weeks later, send it off to get developed, and then get the images back. Half the time we don't even get prints back. We get just digital images back. And so, wow, how mindful is that? I don't know. It's fun. It's a novelty. And I love that. I love all different forms of photography, but the novelty is not like our daily support system. And that's what the smartphone can become. This Instax right here, this is the coolest camera. It shoots on, this is the new new Polaroid. And so it shoots. This is the what's called the Instax Square 40. And again, when I put this up here, it doesn't, but there's an example of a landscape with an instant film. This right here, check this out. San Antonio had a bunch of these skulls around town that they did as part of Dia de los Muertos or something like that. And shooting with this, like every time you shoot with this, the flash goes off automatically. And one of the ones I shot, the eye sockets of this giant skull were shaped in such a way that the light like bounced out, in each one of them, and made like they were glow. There were no lights inside this. It was totally effect of the camera. So that unpredictability, the imperfection of it, like look at Frankie, he's all blown out there, but yet it still looks cool. It's like cheesy and kind of crafty, and then not to mention, you've got a real photo of somebody that you can hold. So I love that about the Instax. But it's not something we're carrying around with us. It's something that is a novelty. And if you want to take one of the practices out of the field guide and plan and say, tomorrow I'm going to go do the chase things that sparkle practice, and I'm going to methodically go out with one of my dedicated cameras, all good, go for it. I want more than anything else for you to feel joy and for you to be in the moment. But let's not, just because this thing is around us 25 hours a day, let's not take for granted the miracle of technology that this is. I've got 3 prime lenses baked into this thing, 13 millimeter, insanely wide lens, and the 24 millimeter. And then this is the 14 Pro Max, and the longest lens on this is 70 millimeters. I think on the 16 Pro Max, it's maybe 120 millimeters. So there you go. All right, so the next reason why mindful smartphone photography is sort of the very formula of my mindful photography practices, and that's the focus, capture, shine. So we focus on body and surroundings before we do anything. Remember, hand on the heart, belly breath. Ooh, we're coming back to reality. We're coming back to the physical world of the senses. Focus, body and surroundings, open our eyes up and let in and let us be directed to what's pulling our attention. Then capture. We're going to capture not so much a pretty picture, but we're going to capture the present moment. What's around us? What's pulling me in right now? Oh, that's some dumb thing. I'm not going to, no. If there's something that's attracting your attention, then go for it. That's what we're going to shoot. That's kind of the mindful photography psyche. And so the third step of it is to shine your light. So focus on body and surroundings, capture the present moment. And then the third step, shine your light and bless someone. So this is the only device that can actually do all three of those in the same device. You know how many times I have begged to have a camera like, God, why didn't Sony make a camera that has this on the back of it, A killer lens, killer glass like this with this on the back. The interface of the smartphone is so, to me, it's just so much superior. People talk about this not being ergonomic. Man, anything I can slide in my pocket and do like this, anything I can shoot video with, and actually take it and swoop it around, has unbelievable stabilization. That's something that's going to make me feel engaged in the moment rather than freaking out, paranoid at all times that I'm not going to get the shot. And that's one of the reasons why I just love it so much. But I'm going to tell you the main reason as we wrap up. Are you ready for this? This thing right here, it makes me feel like a kid again. I think that's part of the deep joy that I feel and that I wanted to communicate through the field guide. I think about the simplicity of it, how I can just so quickly have this, well, it's the greatest gadget since the Swiss Army knife. I mean, it's just right there, and I can choose between these three lenses. I'm not worrying about focusing all the time. If I'm shooting video, the audio is fantastic even without a mic. It's just something that kind of gets out of my way. You'll hear that people talk about that. You just wanted something that just gets out of your way and lets you create. Well, this is it. Believe me, this does not let you, quote, get out of the way. No. All of this hokey stuff, you are so consumed and focused on gear, not even funny. All of the different things that I do with this, these crazy walk around videos that I do in Austin on a gimbal, that's another thing. That's another thing. So this is sort of built-in gimbal, should be all good. But since I love the iPhone so much and the interface, and I know everything about it and I don't have to reinvent the wheel, this gimbal, I would rather use this separate thing like this to shoot like these walk around videos and to get that stability, not have to worry about my camera being horizontal all of the time. This works great. And you know what? Keeping things simple, you're supposed to, or one way you can use one of these is install software on your phone that controls it. But another way, you don't have to do that. You can just turn it on and have it in its various modes. It's going to freak out here because it doesn't have the phone on it. But you can choose that right on here and never even have it connected. So slap the phone on and there you go. What else, friends? The angles that I can catch with this, it makes me think of doing shots that I never even want to imagine doing. I mean, getting like, I don't know, walking up to a pine tree and kind of getting underneath the canopy of the tree and going right up underneath it and shooting up into the pine tree, or finding some rotten tree and there's a big hole in it, and I take this thing and maybe prop it up in a certain way inside that tree and put it on timer and have it take a photograph of me while it's inside the tree. I don't know, like there's so many crazy funky things you can do. I walk into a scene, I do a tight shot on telephoto, I do a wide shot, I do some funky shot. I do one of my favorite practices out of the field guide is practice where is it big or is it small? Like I can take this and write down, let's say go down to the river, and here's this big river rock here that's only like so big, and it's halfway down in the water and there's water flowing around that river rock. And then I have cliffs in the background and stuff. I can come in and do a tight shot with that rock in the corner, way down, almost in the water, and then ask, is it big or is it small? It looks like that big rock is might be a rock that's 30 feet tall. And those fun little things, those childlike things that we can do to experiment and play and play and play, that is my absolute favorite part of it all. So I'm going to leave you with a little little image, okay? So I want you to just kind of hold this in your eyes, in your heart, and think about this. Just imagine a precious child with you, 5-year-old, 6-year-old child. Imagine taking this right here, putting it on airplane mode, launching the camera app, getting them set up, and then just handing it to that child. And let that child, and make sure that, they're free to whatever. They don't worry about breaking it or whatever. They're just free to go create, and just be with that. There's no distraction around. There's just you and the child, and there the child goes off, and you're just watching what that child is doing with that thought. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, look at them. They're making a shot like that. How cool. Pretty cool idea, right? Okay. So here's a challenge. You be that child. Let that child be you. Tap into that non-egoic, non-prideful form of creativity that's deep inside of you, and go out there and explore and play like no one's watching. Never share this stuff on social media. Instead, go out and take those childlike, beautiful, inspired, creative images, edit that thing down in a mindful way, maybe take a few of them, and then send those to someone, text them to someone with a little love note, and just say, I'm thinking about you. These beautiful images here I just went and shot, and they reminded me of the beauty that I always feel when I'm around you. Friends, if any of this resonates, I would love for you to go to joevanwhite.com and download the first practice out of the book. It's called Chase Things That Sparkle. Really fun, great practice to get you kind of tuned in to some things to shoot. And hey, remember, the world's greatest distraction device can be turned into the world's coolest camera by just turning it on airplane mode. So I just pray that that God just open the eyes of your heart, let you feel the presence and the inner peace that comes from going out there and approaching creativity in the world through childlike eyes. And I just hope you'll get out there and practice. Yeah, that's why mindfulness practices are called practices. All right. Okay, get out there and shine your light, and I'll see you next time.